Through my audience research, I learned a lot of things both about my music video and my ancillary text that I wouldn't have initially picked up on if I was just looking over them. Also, I learned about my target audience. I expected them to be quite heavy rock genre people, so leather jackets, black skinny jeans, black clothes, tattoos, piercings, etc. However, I actually learned when I was doing my audience research that bands have a lot of a wider audience, so bands would have fans that would listen to both heavy music such as Oscar and Alexandria, but then also maybe listen to bands like One Direction. So my audience research was directed at quite a wide spectrum, as the audience has changed a lot in the modern day. For my magazine advert, which is one of my ancillary texts, I'd expect to see it in magazines such as Kerrang or NME, which are magazines that devote themselves to quite heavy genre rock. So again, bands such as Oscar and Alexandria, Pierce the Veil, and also quite indie bands, so bands such as Arctic Monkeys, etc. would have been in them. I wouldn't expect to see it in any newspapers, as newspapers tend to go for more mainstream bands or more successful, and as the band are quite small and independent, you don't expect to see them in maybe in rock magazines, in an up-and-coming section or introducing section, or in local newspapers possibly, such as the Hauser Chronicle. When I was designing my magazine advert, I took a lot of inspiration from one that I'd already seen in Kerrang, which is good to tie in together, which was a funeral for a friend's advertising, and it features similar conventions in their magazine advert as it did with ours. It's also important to note that a lot of the bands who would be similar to mine, such as Paramore, Oscar and Alexandria, Bullet for My Valentine, etc., they would all be advertising in Kerrang and NME, because that's the best way for them to promote to their fans, because there's only sort of 2 or 3 magazines that contend at the top, so they're the most popular, so therefore they get the most coverage if they were to have a poster in this particular magazine, as most people would see it. Also, in regards to TV, again, Kerrang would be very popular on TV, as that's when most of the rock music videos and songs are all played on Kerrang. Also, in radio terms, Radio 1 sometimes do a heavy show, and Kerrang have an online podcast, and also small independent radio stations such as Iron Fist tend to have the most popular rock bands of the time or the period in which the fans would listen to these the most. So when I was actually designing my ancillary text, especially in the magazine, it was important to include everything that my target audience would like, opposed to something I just thought would look cool. So I gathered my audience research, and things I kind of had to consider would be the fonts, the colours, what images you'd include, what kind of images there would be, and therefore I learned that the majority of the audience preferred a dark, bold, gothic kind of text, or a scratched on type effect, which is the one I went for in the end. This is shown similarly in bands such as My Chemical Romance, who'd be of a similar genre, as they've got a kind of scratched on effect on some of their albums. Again, they're just like dark, ominous colours, purples, blacks, and although this follows the kind of general conventions of the genre, it's what the audience want as well, so you can take great inspiration from that and you're able to work clearly off the demands of the audience. So I was quite lucky when it came to the band's logo, as the band already had a logo, so therefore I was able to just convey this logo into my own magazine advert, and as I'm part of the band, it's no copyright intended, as it's my initial logo that I had already created. Also, in the video conventions from my audience research, I learned that all audience tend to expect things in rock videos such as crazy parties, cool performance shots, the crowd jumping up and down, mosh pits, etc., just to see what the band are like, what kind of fans they have. Also, they like to see what the band themselves are like, so a following of their everyday life possibly is used sometimes. They like to see backstage shots, what the band get up to when they're behind the stage. Also recording what they're like if they have girlfriends, etc. So the kind of things people would like to know, because they'd like to know the band, if that makes sense. This kind of ties in with developing a relationship with the audience, which is a key part for any band, and for a successful music video or ancillary text. They have to be able to establish like a bond with the text or the video itself and the audience. For instance, in my music video, I've shown the band being followed around kind of on their average day, and this just shows the audience what the band themselves are like. So, as I said, establishes a nice audience or relationship between the band and the audience. This was able to be portrayed most easily through Web 2.0, as we were able to upload our initial ideas, our initial video shots, kind of things, onto social networking sites on the Web 2.0, such as Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, and gather audience feedback from that to see if they actually like what we've done so far. The use of mobile phones when we were designing both our ancillary text and creating our music video were a substantially effective aspect. We were able to quickly upload photos to Twitter, Facebook, etc. Also just text people, ring a few people from our target audience, say we've got an idea for this, we want to include this, see what they think, and if they like it then that was fine, we could include it. If they didn't like the idea, we'd ask a few more people. If it was still unliked, then obviously we wouldn't choose that. Our planning and designing was affected by this, as everything we did, or every major breakthrough we had, we'd ring up somebody from our target audience or our focus group being our band themselves, to say, do you like this idea? They'd say yes or no, and then therefore we could comply with their response. So everything we had shown in our development, did the audience like this? Yes, that's fine, let's do it. Every change we made, as I said, we checked with the focus group. This impacted our design as if they liked it, as I've said. The audience feedback on our video gave us a great sort of insight, as we weren't able to see the small problems that, because we're so focused when we're creating it, that we wouldn't have necessarily seen sort of the bigger picture almost. So when we took a step back, asked the audience what we think, we were able to get a more detailed response and therefore create a more effective both ancillary text and music video. From our audience feedback on our video, we've learned that the audience liked the majority of our video. They said at the start that they wanted to see crazy kind of partying scenes, cool performance shots, etc. So therefore we had to create an environment that would replicate that. And as the band weren't playing any gigs at the time of recording, we had to set up an artificial environment in which we use a stage. We use a black backdrop which ties in with the simple dark colours which are the conventions of the genre. We then use flashing lights on either side of the stage that create the kind of crazy aspect. So when you're playing performance shots, if there was a drum fill, guitar solo, the lights would be flashing, the song's getting powerful, the song's getting more intense, so it just kind of builds up in the video and just maximises the impact they would have on the audience. Also, the wild atmosphere that was created by the flashing lights ties in with what the audience had asked for prior to this. In our party scene, we initially put up some location shots of possible filming, and the audience responded saying that they didn't like our initial idea, as it seemed like just a bedroom. So how would you have just a crazy party in the bedroom? So then we took that on board. We were like, okay, so if it's too simplistic, we're going to have to jazz it up a bit. So therefore I gathered some flashing blue, green and red fairy lights, put them up on the wall. This created again the kind of crazy atmosphere that the audience were looking for. And then I also got some still white fairy lights, and then turned all the lights off in the room. Apart from those, the still white fairy lights created a nice backlight for the band, so no matter where you shot them, you were still able to see their faces clearly, they weren't completely in the dark. And then the flashing crazy lights, fairy lights, create that kind of crazy and effective means of a party scene really. So therefore it was kind of obvious what was going on. Yeah, the empty bottles also, and we've thrown some cards around on the floor, empty bottles of beer, empty bottles of whiskey, gin, etc. This kind of creates the party aspect, and the cards just give it that kind of cool like addition to the mise-en-scene. So just again what the audience had asked for, the crazy kind of scene, it just creates like a mess on the floor, so it's a nice touch for the audience. Okay, so lastly, when we were doing our audience research, we asked them what kind of music videos they had initially liked, and what kind of videos they enjoyed watching and they thought were effective, and they came back with the ideas of Yumi at 6, Kiss and Tell, and Asking Alexandria to the Stage. We were able to convey inspiration from both of these music videos into our music video. For instance, in Kiss and Tell, it's quite a crazy party scene where they're throwing food, they're throwing cards, etc. So that's where we got the card idea from. They were scattered over the floor, and also in To the Stage we used several similar aspects of that. For instance, when he wakes up, you see the same kind of scene in our video when you see all the band waking up from a hungover state. It's a similar aspect in the Asking Alexandria video. Then goes on to the crazy party scene, which is a similar format to ours. So we're able to use our audience research quite effectively